"Sir, would you be my dance partner?" asked the maid's daughter, unaware the man was a billionaire. "Hello everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much." It was a night like no other. The ballroom shimmered under the glow of crystal chandeliers, the sound of soft laughter and clinking glasses filling the air. Elegant men in tuxedos and women in glittering gowns swirled across the dance floor in perfect harmony, their every move a testament to wealth and status. The rich and powerful gathered here to celebrate, to flaunt their success, and to bask in the luxury that only a select few could enjoy. But in the corner, far from the center of attention, stood a young girl who seemed entirely out of place. Her name was Lily, and she was the maid's daughter. Dressed in a simple, faded blue dress, she looked like a ghost in a room full of giants. Her mother, Abigail, had worked at the mansion for years, cleaning, cooking, and making sure everything was perfect for the elite who called the estate home. But Lily, only 12 years old, wasn't supposed to be here. She was supposed to be at home, doing her homework, but when her mother's shift had run late, she had been asked to stay and quietly wait in the back. It wasn't the first time she had been in such a place, but tonight was different. Tonight, something was calling to her. She watched the dancers twirl, the music lifting their spirits, and a sense of longing bubbled up inside her. It wasn't the luxury or the opulence that caught her attention. No, it was the idea of being seen, of being part of something grand. Her heart raced as she noticed a man standing off to the side, alone. His eyes scanned the room, but he didn't seem to be enjoying the festivities. He was older, dressed in a classic black suit that didn't quite fit the glamorous surroundings, but something about him caught Lily's attention. She couldn't explain it, but she felt drawn to him. The idea of simply asking him to dance, even if it was ridiculous, filled her with a sense of daring. After a moment of hesitation, she took a deep breath and approached him. He looked down at her, raising an eyebrow in surprise. "Sir, would you be my dance partner?" she asked, her voice soft but clear. The man stared at her for a moment, his face unreadable. A faint smile crossed his lips, but there was no warmth in it. He chuckled lightly, almost as though she were a joke. "You must be mistaken, little girl. I'm not here to dance," he said, his tone dismissive. But Lily didn't back down. She stood firm, her small hands nervously gripping the edge of her dress. "I know you don't want to, but I really need this dance," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. He seemed taken aback by her persistence. "And why would I dance with you?" he asked, his voice still laced with disbelief. "Because," Lily replied, looking up at him with eyes full of hope, "sometimes, the people who least expect it are the ones who need to be seen the most." The man froze, his expression flickering with something unreadable. For a brief moment, he considered walking away. But then, something in his gaze softened. He bent down slightly, his eyes locking with hers. "All right," he said, his voice low and almost reluctant. "I'll give you one dance. But don't expect it to be anything special." He extended his hand, and Lily, heart pounding, placed her hand in his. As they moved onto the dance floor, the soft music began to play, and Lily's feet seemed to glide effortlessly across the polished floor. The moment was almost magical, as if everything around them faded away. For a brief, fleeting moment, Lily felt like she was part of something important, something bigger than herself. But little did she know, the man she was dancing with wasn't just a random guest at the party. He wasn't just any stranger who had agreed to a dance. He was a billionaire, one of the wealthiest men in the country. And tonight, he would change her life forever. The music played softly in the background, and the sound of Lily's delicate shoes gliding across the polished dance floor seemed to echo in her ears. Her heart pounded, but it wasn't from nerves anymore. As she moved, she felt the weight of the man's hand on her waist, steady but unyielding, guiding her effortlessly through the rhythm of the waltz. For a moment, she forgot about everything, the grand ballroom, the other guests, and most importantly, the differences between them. She was just a girl, dancing with someone she never thought she would meet, let alone share a dance with. The man, who had initially dismissed her, now looked down at her with a mixture of curiosity and amusement. His smile had softened, and for the first time, she could see that he wasn't the unapproachable figure he seemed to be when he first rejected her request. "You're good," he said, his voice low but sincere. Lily smiled up at him, though she was still unsure whether he was simply being kind or if he truly meant it. "I've been practicing," she replied, her voice barely above a whisper. "I've always wanted to dance like this, but I never thought I'd get the chance." The man nodded, his gaze far off for a moment as if he were lost in thought. "You've got talent. You should do something with it." Lily's eyes widened slightly. She had never thought of herself as talented, at least not in a way that anyone would take seriously. "I'm just a maid's daughter," she said softly, her voice trailing off. "That doesn't matter," he replied quickly, almost too quickly. He glanced down at her, his eyes suddenly intense. "Talent doesn't care about who you are or where you come from. It just exists, and it's up to you what you do with it." His words were simple, but they hit her like a wave. She had always dreamed of being more than just a maid's daughter, more than just the invisible girl who quietly watched the world from the sidelines. But dreams always seemed so far away, almost impossible to reach. Now, for the first time, she could see a glimmer of possibility. "But I don't know how," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "How do I make people see me?" The man looked down at her, his expression unreadable. "Sometimes, you don't need to make people see you," he said quietly. "Sometimes, you just have to let them realize they've been blind all along." The words hung in the air between them, and Lily felt a strange warmth spread through her chest. She wasn't sure what he meant exactly, but she could feel it. There was something different about him, something that made her feel as though, for once, she mattered. As the song came to a close, the music faded into the background, and the man reluctantly pulled his hand away from her waist. The dance was over, but something had changed between them. Lily felt lighter, as though the weight of her circumstances had momentarily lifted. The man gave her a small nod, almost as if to say goodbye, but then something unexpected happened. He reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a business card, handing it to her. "If you ever want to take your dancing seriously, give me a call," he said, his voice warm but firm. "I can help you get started. No strings attached, just a chance." Lily took the card, her hands trembling slightly. It was an offer she had never expected, not in a million years. "Thank you," she said, her voice shaking with disbelief. The man smiled, his eyes twinkling with something she couldn't quite place. "Don't thank me yet," he said. "Just remember, sometimes the most extraordinary things come from the most unexpected places." With that, he turned and walked away, disappearing into the crowd of guests. Lily stood there for a moment, holding the card in her hand, her heart racing. Was this really happening? Did this stranger just offer to help her? She glanced down at the card, her fingers tracing the smooth edges. It felt like a dream, but in her heart, she knew it was real. She wasn't just the maid's daughter anymore. She was someone with potential, someone who could make her dreams come true. And this was just the beginning. I had no idea what to expect when I saw the card in my hand. I couldn't believe it. The man had just offered me a chance, a real chance to do something with my life. To dance, to be something more than just the maid's daughter. The words on the card were simple. "Call me if you want to make something of your talent." But it was so much more than that. It was an opportunity, a lifeline, and for the first time in my life, I didn't feel invisible. I stood in the middle of the ballroom, the music still lingering in the air, but all I could think about was what he had said. No strings attached, just a chance. The whole evening had felt surreal, like I was living in a world that wasn't mine. But that card, that offer, it felt like a bridge to something else, something better. I hadn't expected to dance with anyone that night, let alone a billionaire. I hadn't expected to be seen. But there I was, holding that card, feeling like everything I had dreamed of was within reach. But what was I supposed to do with it? Should I call him? Should I take him up on his offer? What if it was a mistake? What if he didn't really care? I shook my head, pushing the doubts away. I had to try. I couldn't let fear hold me back. I had to believe in myself, even if no one else did. The next day, I walked through the doors of the mansion where my mother worked, my heart racing. I couldn't stop thinking about the dance, about how he had looked at me, how he had seen me. For the first time, I felt like I wasn't just the help. I was someone with potential, someone who could be something more. My mother was in the kitchen, her hands busy preparing dinner for the guests, her face tired but focused. "Hey, Mom," I said quietly, trying not to disturb her too much. She looked up, her face breaking into a small smile. "What's going on, sweetie?" I hesitated for a moment, holding the card tightly in my hand. I met someone last night," I said, my voice shaking a little. "He's a billionaire. He said he could help me with my dancing." My mother's eyes widened in surprise, and she stopped what she was doing, giving me her full attention. "A billionaire," she repeated, her voice soft. "What do you mean, help you?" "He saw me dance, and he offered to help me make something of it. He gave me his card, said I could call him if I wanted a chance." My mother looked at me, her eyes filled with both pride and concern. "That's incredible, Lily. But are you sure?" I nodded. "Yes, Mom. I'm sure. I know this is my chance." She sighed, taking a step closer to me, her hands resting gently on my shoulders. "I want you to have every chance in the world, but I don't want you to get hurt. Be careful. Not everyone in that world is like him." I smiled at her, squeezing her hand. "I will, Mom. I promise. But this is my dream. I have to try." My mother smiled back at me, though her eyes were still filled with worry. "Then go for it, Lily. Just remember who you are. And never forget where you come from." I nodded, feeling the weight of her words, but also the fire in my heart. I wasn't going to let fear or doubt stop me. I was going to call him. I was going to take that first step towards something bigger than I ever imagined. And so I did. I picked up the phone and dialed the number on the card. When the man answered, his voice was calm, measured, as though he expected this call. "Hello. Hi, this is Lily, the maid's daughter. You gave me your card last night. I want to take you up on your offer. I want to learn. I want to dance." There was a pause on the other end, and I could almost hear him smile. "I'm glad you called, Lily. Meet me tomorrow. I'll help you find your way." And just like that, my world shifted. I wasn't the invisible girl anymore. I wasn't just the maid's daughter. I was someone with a future I was going to create, step by step. I woke up the next morning with a mixture of excitement and nerves swirling in my stomach. Today was the day I was going to meet him again. The man who had offered me a chance, an opportunity that seemed so far out of my reach, yet somehow was within grasp. I had no idea what to expect, but I knew one thing. I had to show up. I couldn't let this slip away. I dressed quickly in the simplest outfit I had, a little dress that my mom had given me. It wasn't much, but it was all I had. I couldn't help but imagine what it would be like to be part of a world where you didn't have to worry about things like money or status, where people saw you for your potential, not just where you came from. I walked through the streets, feeling the weight of my decision with each step. The world around me seemed so different. Everything felt a little more possible today. When I arrived at the address he had given me, a sense of awe washed over me. The building was grand, towering above everything else in the city, its windows reflecting the sunlight as if it were made of glass and dreams. I took a deep breath and entered. Inside, it was even more impressive than I could have imagined. The floors were polished to a shine, and the air smelled faintly of fresh coffee and expensive leather. There was an energy here, a sense of purpose that filled the space. I felt small, but I was determined to make my presence known. The man, whose name I still didn't know, was waiting for me. He was sitting at a desk, his face focused on something in front of him. He looked up as I walked in, and for a moment, I saw a flicker of recognition in his eyes. "You made it," he said with a small smile. I nodded, trying to hide the nerves creeping up on me. "I'm ready," I said, my voice firm. He stood up and gestured for me to follow him. We walked through a hallway lined with photos and awards, all reminders of success. We stopped in front of a door, and he opened it to reveal a large studio with mirrors on every wall. The floor was made of polished wood, and in the center of the room stood a grand piano. He motioned for me to step inside. "This is where we'll begin," he said. "I want to see what you've got." I took a deep breath, trying to steady my nerves. I had danced in small rooms before, but this felt different. This was the place where dreams came to life, where talent was nurtured, and where everything I had worked for could finally matter. I stepped onto the floor, feeling the smooth wood beneath my feet, and began to move. The music started softly, but I let the rhythm take over. I felt the familiar pull of the melody, guiding my body, my movements, as if I were meant to be here. For a moment, I forgot where I was, who I was, and all the reasons I had ever doubted myself. I was just a dancer, and the world around me melted away. I could hear him watching, but I kept moving, feeling the music in my bones, letting it guide me. When I finished, I stopped and turned to him, waiting for his reaction. He was silent for a moment, and my heart skipped a beat. Was it not enough? Had I not impressed him? Finally, he spoke. That was impressive, he said, his voice calm. You've got more in you, though. I can see it. I felt a rush of relief and pride flood over me. Thank you, I whispered, a smile tugging at the corners of my mouth. You've got something special, he said, his eyes meeting mine. I can help you bring it out, but it's up to you to keep going. I nodded, feeling a new sense of purpose. This was just the beginning, but I knew now that I had a chance. A real chance. I wasn't just a maid's daughter anymore. I was someone with a future, one I was going to fight for. I arrived at the studio the next day, my heart racing with anticipation. The man, whose name was Michael, had told me to come back. He had been impressed with my dance, but now he wanted to see more, wanted to push me further. I had never felt more determined. I had this opportunity, and I wasn't going to waste it. I walked into the same grand room, the smooth wooden floor reflecting the soft light from the overhead chandeliers. Michael was already there, standing by the mirror, watching me. His eyes were calm, but there was a spark of something else there, something like expectation. Ready to show me what you've got? He asked. His voice was steady, but there was an edge to it, like he was waiting for me to prove myself. I nodded. I'm ready. The music started, this time a bit faster, the rhythm more complex. I took a deep breath and moved, letting the music take over, feeling every beat flow through me. I focused only on the movement, the precision, the grace that I had worked so hard to perfect. The floor beneath my feet felt like it was made for dancing, and I lost myself in the motion, my body responding to the melody like it always had in my dreams. As the song reached its peak, I executed a spin, my body twisting through the air, landing with perfect balance. I finished the routine, standing tall, waiting for his response. Michael was quiet for a moment, his eyes scanning me as if he were looking for something more. My heart pounded in my chest, unsure of what he thought. Then he spoke. That was good, Lily, he said, his tone almost approving. But you can do better. You need to push yourself more, find the raw emotion in the dance. It's not just about the steps. It's about telling a story with your body. I felt a wave of frustration, mixed with determination. I had worked so hard, but now I understood. He wasn't just looking for technical skill. He wanted something deeper, something more real. I nodded, determined to give him what he was asking for. I'll try again, I said, my voice steady. Michael nodded and stepped aside, giving me space. This time, I closed my eyes as the music began again. I let go of the technicality and focused only on the feeling, the emotion. I imagined myself as the center of the dance, every movement a reflection of who I was, what I had been through, and what I was becoming. The music swirled around me, and I could feel the energy building, rising with each step, each turn. I was no longer just dancing, I was telling my story. The room seemed to disappear as I moved, my body flowing with the music, feeling every note deep in my bones. I spun again, faster this time, letting the energy carry me. When I stopped, I stood still, my breath heavy, my heart racing. Michael was quiet for a moment, his eyes studying me closely. Finally, he spoke. That's it. That's the emotion I was looking for. You found it, Lily. A wave of relief washed over me, followed by a rush of pride. Thank you, I whispered, feeling a smile tug at the corners of my mouth. You're on the right path, Michael said, nodding approvingly. But this is just the beginning. There's a lot of work ahead. But if you keep pushing, you'll get there. I nodded, my heart swelling with a mixture of excitement and determination. This wasn't just a dance anymore. It was my life. And I was going to make it count. I woke up the next morning feeling a sense of urgency in the pit of my stomach. The last few weeks had been a whirlwind, but now everything felt more real. The dance lessons, the feedback from Michael, the small improvements, it all led up to this day. The day when everything would change. I had received an invitation to audition for a prestigious dance academy, one that could make or break my future as a dancer. Michael had arranged it for me. He believed in me, but the pressure of what was ahead was beginning to weigh on me. I wasn't just dancing for myself anymore. I was dancing for my mom, for all the sacrifices she made, and for the future I had always dreamed of but never thought possible. The academy was known for discovering raw talent, for turning ordinary dancers into stars. But the stakes were high. I had heard rumors that only a few made it through, that most of the students left in disappointment. I knew that this could be my one shot. The morning was crisp, and I made my way to the studio, the invitation in my pocket heavy with significance. My hands shook slightly as I pushed open the doors to the familiar space. Michael was already there, waiting. He smiled as I walked in, but I could see the determination in his eyes. "Today's the day," he said, his voice calm yet encouraging. "Are you ready?" I nodded, swallowing the lump in my throat. "I think so." He gave me a nod, then motioned for me to start warming up. As I stretched, I could feel the tension building in my body. The routine I had perfected over the past few weeks felt like it wasn't enough. I needed to show them something more, something they couldn't ignore. Michael was watching, observing every movement, every shift in my posture. He had always been precise with his feedback, but today he was quiet, his eyes sharp. I took a deep breath and began to dance. As the music filled the room, I let go of the nerves. I moved with a sense of freedom I hadn't felt in weeks. Each step was more than just a movement. It was a statement. I was no longer just the maid's daughter. I was a dancer, one who deserved to be here, one who could make it. The music reached its crescendo, and I executed the final pirouette, my body spinning with perfect precision. I stood there, breathless, waiting for Michael's response. He walked over to me, his face unreadable. For a moment, I thought I had failed. Then he smiled. "That's it," he said quietly. "You've done it. You're ready." The weight of his words hit me all at once. I had done it. I had finally reached the point where I could stand tall and say I was ready for the next step. The next step in a journey I had only dreamed of. As I left the studio later that day, I knew that things had changed. This was no longer just a dream. It was real. And no matter what happened, I was going to fight for it. I wasn't going to be the invisible girl anymore. I was going to be the dancer who made her mark. This was my time. I stepped into the grand audition hall with my heart beating fast in my chest. The building was imposing, with tall columns and shining floors that reflected the light from the crystal chandeliers above. I had never seen anything like it. This was the place where dreams were either made or shattered. The audition was more than just a test of my skills as a dancer. It was the gateway to my future, the future I had been fighting for. Michael had been with me every step of the way, pushing me to be better, to reach further, and to never settle for anything less than my best. But now, standing in the hallway, waiting for my turn, I couldn't help but feel the weight of everything that was at stake. My mother had always supported me, but I knew how much this would mean to her if I could make it. She worked so hard to give me a chance at a better life, and this was my chance to make it count. I had spent years dreaming of this moment, rehearsing in small studios and even in the living room of our modest apartment. But now, here I was, in front of some of the most important people in the industry. I knew I had to leave everything behind and focus solely on what I had trained for. A door opened, and I heard my name called. I took a deep breath, stood tall, and walked into the room. There were 3 judges seated at a long table, each with their eyes fixed on me. They didn't say anything, but the silence was louder than words. I took my place in the center of the room, my body tense with anticipation. The music began, and I moved. Every step was precise, every turn a reflection of my dedication and hard work. I poured everything I had into the routine, letting the music guide me, letting my body speak the words I had always wanted to say. As the music built to its peak, I felt the energy in the room shift. I was no longer nervous. I was lost in the dance, in the moment. I had never felt more alive. When the music stopped, I stood there, breathless, waiting for the judges to speak. For a moment, there was nothing but silence. Then one of the judges leaned forward, his gaze intense but thoughtful. "That was impressive," he said, his voice calm. "You have something special, something that stands out." My heart skipped a beat. I wasn't sure if it was a compliment or just polite feedback, but I had heard what I needed to hear. The second judge nodded. "There's raw talent here," she said. "But we'll need to see more. We'll need to see consistency, growth, and the ability to take direction." I nodded, feeling a surge of determination. I wasn't going to stop now. The third judge smiled, a little more warmly than the others. "I'm excited to see where you go from here," he said. "We'll be in touch." I smiled back, trying to keep my composure. As I walked out of the room, I felt a sense of relief wash over me, but it wasn't over yet. The waiting game had just begun. Michael was waiting outside the door, a proud smile on his face. "How did it go?" he asked, his voice calm, but with a hint of curiosity. "I think it went well," I said, trying to contain my excitement. "I gave it everything I had." Michael placed a hand on my shoulder. "That's all you can do, Lily. You showed them who you are. Now we wait." The next few days were a blur of anticipation. I tried to keep busy, to distract myself, but the thought of what was coming gnawed at me. Every time the phone rang, I jumped, hoping it was the academy calling. Then, one evening, I was sitting in the living room when the call came. I grabbed the phone before the second ring. "Hello. This is Emily Green from the Elite Dance Academy. I'm calling to inform you that you've been selected for our program. Congratulations." My heart stopped, then raced. I could barely breathe. "Really?" I whispered. "Yes. We were impressed with your audition, and we believe you have what it takes to succeed here. We look forward to working with you." I dropped the phone, my hands trembling. I couldn't believe it. I had made it. I was in. I had a future. The future I had worked for, dreamed of, and fought for. The dream was finally real. I woke up the next morning to a feeling I had never experienced before, nervous excitement, but also a sense of accomplishment. I had made it into the Elite Dance Academy. It was a dream come true, but now the real work was about to begin. I had been given a chance, but that chance came with a challenge. There were others in the academy who had been training for years, and I couldn't afford to fall behind. I dressed quickly and headed to my first official day at the academy. The building was massive, with glass walls and modern architecture, a far cry from the small studios I had practiced in before. I stood outside for a moment, taking it all in. This was where I was meant to be. I could feel the energy in the air, the pressure to succeed. As I entered, I was greeted by one of the instructors, a tall woman with a sharp gaze and an even sharper voice. "Welcome to the academy," she said, her tone brisk. "Today is your first step. If you're here, it's because you've shown potential. But let me make one thing clear. This academy is not for the faint of heart. It's for those who are ready to work, to push beyond their limits. If you're not prepared to give it everything, leave now." The words hit me like a cold splash of water. But I didn't flinch. I was ready. The day was intense. We began with a warm-up routine, stretching, and preparing our bodies for the challenges ahead. I could feel the difference immediately. The floor was smoother, the space larger, and the intensity was higher. I had to keep up, had to show them that I belonged here. As the day progressed, I felt myself slipping into a rhythm. The other dancers were skilled, some even exceptional, but I knew I couldn't let that intimidate me. I had made it this far because I had something special, and I had to trust in that. But the challenges didn't stop. Every move had to be flawless. Every routine had to be precise. My muscles burned with exhaustion by the end of the day, but I refused to let that stop me. I stayed late to practice, pushing my body beyond what I thought it could handle. I wasn't just trying to be good, I was trying to be great. The next few weeks passed in a blur. The pace was relentless, the training grueling, but I found a rhythm. I grew stronger, faster, and more confident with each passing day. But with every victory, there came another challenge. There were moments when I wanted to give up, when the doubt crept in, telling me I wasn't good enough, that I didn't belong. But then I thought of my mom, of all the sacrifices she had made, of how hard she had worked to give me this chance. I couldn't let her down. I couldn't let myself down. One afternoon, after a particularly tough session, Michael called me into his office. He had been watching me closely, offering feedback after each practice. But today, his expression was different. "Lily," he said, his voice serious. "You've improved tremendously. But you have a long way to go. You're talented, no doubt. But you have to remember why you're here. You've got the potential to be something incredible, but you can't get complacent. The hardest part of this journey isn't the training. It's the mental strength to keep going when everything inside you tells you to stop." His words hit me harder than I expected. I had come so far, but the road ahead was even longer. I nodded, taking in what he said. "I won't stop," I promised, my voice firm. "I'll keep going." Michael smiled, his expression softening. "I believe you. Now go. Show them what you're made of." With renewed determination, I walked out of his office, ready to face whatever came next. I had the talent. I had the will. And now, I had the mindset to push through anything. The journey was far from over, but I was ready for the next step. I wasn't just the maid's daughter anymore. I was a dancer with a future. and I was going to make that future mine. The weeks that followed were a whirlwind of training, performances, and endless practice. Every day, I pushed my body further than I thought it could go, testing my limits. But I was determined. I wasn't just going to be another dancer at the academy. I was going to prove that I deserved to be there. The end of the semester was approaching, and with it, the final performance. This was it, the moment I had been working toward. It would determine whether I had what it took to make it to the next level. The pressure weighed heavily on me, but I was ready. I had worked too hard to let fear hold me back now. The night of the performance arrived, and I stood backstage, the sound of the audience's chatter and clinking glasses seeping through the walls. My heart raced as I prepared for my turn. I could hear the music starting, the rhythm pulsing through the floor beneath my feet. This was it, the moment I had been waiting for. As I stepped out onto the stage, the spotlight hit me, and for a moment, everything else faded away. There was no more academy, no more pressure, no more doubts. There was only the music and me. I began to move, every step, every turn, an expression of everything I had worked for. The movements flowed effortlessly, my body moving in perfect harmony with the rhythm. I could feel the energy of the crowd, but it didn't distract me. I was in my own world, lost in the dance, telling the story of my journey through every movement. When the music reached its peak, I spun, my body rising through the air, and for a moment, time seemed to stop. I landed gracefully, every part of my body in perfect alignment, and the applause erupted. I stood there, breathless, my heart racing, but I felt a sense of peace wash over me. This was my moment. I had done it. I had proven, to myself and to everyone else, that I was capable. Michael's words echoed in my mind. Talent doesn't care about where you come from. It just exists. It's up to you what you do with it. I had taken that talent and pushed it to its limits.